So here we have another interview question, which is a very difficult question, and this particular question has been asked in interviews by companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft many times. Still, they are asking similar question like this. So what is the question? So given an image represented by n and n matrix, write a method to rotate the image by 90 degrees. So in this case, let's say we have a matrix like this, so we need to rotate this matrix 90% right. So the question is, how can we rotate this matrix over here? So if you rotate this matrix 90 degrees, it will be like this. So here you see that the first column over here becomes the first row, and the second column over here becomes the second row, and the third column over here becomes the third row. So let's see how can we do this and see the steps visually that we are going to perform over here, and then we will continue to code it. So here the simplest way of this, we will move the edge of this array. So we will move the edge of this array first, then we are going to move the inside elements in this case. So our algorithm will be like this. So here, first we are creating the temp variable, then we are saving the top element's value to the temp variable. So in this case, top element is this one, so we are saving it to temp variable over here. Then we are taking the left cell, in this case which is 7, and assigning it to the top variable. So in this case, 7 will move to the place of 1. Then in the next step, you see that in the left cell, we are assigning the value of bottom cell. So in this case, bottom cell's value is 9. So we are taking 9 and assigning it to the left cell. So then the next step is we are assigning to the bottom cell the value of right cell. So in this case, right cell is 3. So it will be assigned to 9. Then at the end, we are going to assign the right cell the value that we saved in the temp variable. So in the temp variable, we have the value of 1, which is the top cell, so it's going to be assigned to the right cell over here. So with these steps, we are moving 1 to place of 3, 3 to the place of 9, 9 to the place of 7, and 7 to the place of 1. So after moving all these elements, it's going to look like this. So as you see, 7 moved to the place of 1, and 9 moved to the place of 7, and 3 moved to the place of 9, and 1 moved to the place of 3. So with this, we have finished rotating of outside layer. But here you see that these elements over here, which is inmost layer, is still over here. So if we mark this, you see that this is another square over here. So this means that we can implement the same logic by moving 4 to the place of 2, and 2 to the place of 6, and 6 to the place of 8, and 8 to the place of 4. So after doing so, by implementing this logic over here, it's going to look like this. So after rotation, you see that first column over here becomes the first row of this matrix, and second column over here becomes the second row of this matrix, and third column over here becomes the third row of this matrix over here. So actually you can find this question on LeetCode as well. So on LeetCode, this question is question number 48, in which it says that rotate image. So here also you see that it says that you are given an xn 2D matrix, so representing an image, and rotate image by 90 degrees. So here also you see that we have a matrix like this. So we need to write a method which rotate this matrix like this. So here also you see that first column becomes first row, and second column becomes second row, and third column becomes third row. So basically these are the same questions. So we are going to create our method in Java based on the logic that we have explained over here. So let's continue to write our algorithm. Now here I'm going to create our rotate matrix method like this. So as we said before, our method will return Boolean value, because if we successfully rotate the matrix, it's going to return true, otherwise it's going to return false. So in this case, I'm going to declare our method like this: public Boolean rotate matrix. So as a parameter, it's going to take two-dimensional array. So it's going to be integer array, so two-dimensional matrix. Then inside this function, the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to check that if the row number is not equal to the number of columns, then in this case we are going to return false, because in this case our matrix is not nxn matrix. So, and also we are going to check another condition: if the number of rows is 0, in this case we are going to return also false, because if the number of rows is 0, so in this matrix we don't have any elements. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put if condition like this. So if matrix.length, which is returning the number of rows, equals to 0, or I'm going to put or condition like this: matrix.length Now, as we mentioned, if we take the matrix length, it's going to return the number of rows in the matrix. So if it is not equal to the number of columns, then in this case we are going to return false. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to put not equal to matrix with the index of 0 dot length. Now in this case, if we take matrix with the index of 0 dot length, in this case it's returning number of columns. So if this is the case, then in this case we are going to return false, which means that our matrix is not n xn matrix. So in this case we don't need to rotate our matrix, so that's why we are returning false. Now the next step is we are going to take the number of rows in the matrix. So I'm going to declare variable n and set to this variable number of rows. So as we said before, by taking the two-dimensional matrix length, we can get the number of rows. So then by using this n variable over here, we are going to find out the number of layers in the 2D matrix. So if this is 3 to 3 matrix, so in this case we know that we have two layers, which is one of them is outmost layer and another one inmost layer. So after finding the number of layers, we are going to loop through these layers to change the place of the cells. So in this case I'm going to write our loop like this. So loop will start from layer 0, then it will continue until the number of layers. So how can we know the number of layers? So the number of layers will be row numbers divided by 2. So layer is less than row number divided by 2. Then this layer will be increased by 1 in each step. So inside this loop we are going to change the place of our cells. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to create over here first variable. So this one also will be the integer. Integer first will be set to layer. So after creating this first variable over here, I'm going to create last variable. So last variable will be set n minus 1 minus layer. Then by using these first and last variables, we are going to loop through the cells and change their places. So this outer loop is looping through the layers and this inner loop is looping through the cells. So for I equals first, and it's continuing until the last element is less than last, and this one also will be increased by 1. So inside this for loop we are going to create another variable which is helper variable for us, so to find the location of the cells. So this will be set I minus first. So I is coming from this loop over here and first comes from this layer loop over here, because as you see, when we are starting this loop, first we are creating first variable and setting the layer to it. So you can imagine it as a layer over here. So then, as we mentioned, the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to save the top element. So I'm going to create variable top and set to this variable the value of top element. So the value of top element will be like, so we know that top element is located at the index of first row and first column. So I'm going to put first row, and so then the column will be I. Then we are going to change the places of these cells over here. So as we said before, after saving the top cell, the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to move left cell to the place of top cell. So this means that in top cell we are going to assign the left cell. So we know that left cell is located at last row and first column. So to access it, we are going to write matrix last minus offset, because we are going to do this one for inner and outer layer. So for outer layer, offset will be 0, and for inner layer it's going to change. So that's why we need to put minus offset over here, and then I'm going to put first column over here. So after doing so, the next thing that we are going to do, we need to move the bottom cell to the place of left cell. So we know that the left cell is located at this location, so I'm going to copy this one from here and assign to this left cell the value of bottom cell. So to access the bottom cell, we know that bottom cell is located at the last column and last row. So matrix last, and to access the last column, last minus offset. So one more time we are putting offset over here because we are going to do the same operation for inner layer. So that's why we need to use offset over here. Then the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to move the right cell to the place of bottom. So we know that to access bottom we can write the matrix like this. I'm going to set right cell to this bottom cell over here. So to access right cell, we are going to write something like this. So it's located at the first row and last column. So I'm going to put like, then after finishing everything, we need to put the top cell to the place of right cell. So I'm going to assign the top over here. So this is going to applicable for both of layers. So because we are looping through the layers. So after finishing these both loops, we are going to return true over here because everything finished without error. So with this, we have finished our methods. So this is the logic that we have explained in our slides. So we have implemented this logic in practice. Now let's see how this is working in case of the matrix that we explained in our slides. So I'm going to create two-dimensional matrix over here, which will be the integer matrix. So I'm going to set it like this. Matrix equals to, so this is two-dimensional array. So in the first row, we have 1, 2, 3. Then in the second row, we have 4, 5, 6. Then in the third row, we have 7, 8, 9. Now what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to run rotate matrix method for this matrix and then print out this matrix to the console to see that how it is changing. So it's going to be like this, mn.rotate matrix. So as a parameter, it's going to take matrix, and then I'm going to print out this two-dimensional array to the console. So we know that in case of Java, to print out two-dimensional array to the console, we are using arrays class over here. So in the arrays class, we have dip2string method. So by using dip2string method, we can convert two-dimensional array to the string and print out to the console. So I'm going to call this method inside print methods. So system out.println. So here I'm going to call arrays class, arrays.dip2string, and inside this one I'm going to put matrix. So to use this class, you need to import Java util arrays over here. Now if we run our code, now you see that it prints out two-dimensional array like this. So this means that first column from this two-dimensional array become the first row of this two-dimensional array, and second column becomes the second row, and third column becomes the third row in this array. So everything works the way that we want. So as we explained in our slides that, so when we are rotating matrix 90 degrees, after rotation, the first column becomes the first row, second column becomes the second row, and the third column becomes the third row. So this is what's happening over here. So if you look at these two matrices very carefully, you will see that this matrix is converted to this matrix the way that we explained. So with this, we have come to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, we have explained how can we rotate a matrix 90 degrees right. So see you in the next lecture.